too much of the leadership has gotten deeply involved in the occult and demonic kinds of intelligence.
But we found more work that we needed to do. We were then told, you guys need to stop. You can't work on this anymore.
The most interesting email is this connection of the House of Rothschild to Jeffrey Epstein.
Interdimensional demonic intelligence.
Do you think there's a connection between Jeffrey Epstein and UFOs?
For sure.
The Shadow Masonic Lodge.
Oh boy.
Yo, what's good? We're back with another one.
It's showtime.
Scientists just copied a fruit fly's brain into a computer. Then they gave it a digital body and it started moving and finding food and eating. It responds to its environment and behaves exactly like a fruit fly with 95% accuracy. No training data, no machine learning. That fly is currently moving without anyone telling it to move, without anyone guiding it, without anyone training it. The fact that it knows how to walk is not the fascinating thing. It's walking because it wants to get food. So it understands hunger even though it doesn't need food. It's coded in the brain for it to find food, and it's doing it digitally. Now this team, their mission is to create a complete digital human emulation to prepare us for a future with digital intelligence. The researchers said it's not a problem of how. We know it's possible. It's just a problem of when.
Great. So we're going to have robots that think they're human.
Killer robots, bro.
This is the world's first humanoid robot that was actually sent to the front lines for testing last month, and it could change the battlefield forever. It's called the Phantom Mk1. It's 5'9", weighs 175 pounds. It can hold various weapons, including a revolver, pistol, shotgun, rifles, etc. And according to Time magazine, it's the world's first humanoid robot specifically developed for defense application. And this is not just something hypothetically in the future. It's happening now. Its creator, a US startup called Foundation Robotics, just sent 2 of these things to Ukraine last month to test them on the front lines. And it's not just that. Foundation already have research contracts with the US Army, Navy, and Air Force. They're due to begin tests with US Marines, and the Pentagon is even considering these robots for potential deployment in combat scenarios. But the thing is, humanoid robots take the moral questions that we already have for drones to another level. I mean, the key difference is in the name, humanoid, meaning they're designed like a human so that they can carry out tasks only humans would be needed to carry out at war. And it's crazy to say, but a lot of these questions might need answers sooner than you think, because Foundation Robotics alone have a planned mass production goal of 50,000 robots by 2027.
I told you, bro. We're fucked.
Yeah, the future's looking bleak.
While everyone's been focused on the missing general, investigators just uncovered something that makes that story significantly darker. Major General William Neil McCasland commanded the Air Force Research Laboratory, the lab that funded development of Mondaloy, a classified nickel superalloy now built into the American rocket engines, replacing Russian hardware on national security launches. The woman who co-invented that alloy and held the patent, Monica Jacinto Riza, was a 30-year technical fellow at Aerojet Rocketdyne who later moved to NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. On June 22nd of last year, she went hiking in the Angeles National Forest, waved at a companion 30 feet ahead of her, and vanished. Thermal imaging found nothing, search dogs lost her scent, no body was ever recovered, and 8 months later, McCasland disappears the same way. And there's a third name, Dallas Hardwick. Riza's co-inventor and the scientist who ran the government side of the Mondaloy program at Wright-Patterson died in 2014. The engineer who built it, the scientist who certified it, the general who funded it, every person who held a complete picture of how this alloy went from a lab bench into American rockets is gone. And even more, before McCasland vanished, Congressman Burleson and UAP whistleblower David Grush were both actively trying to reach him, specifically because of what they believed he knew. Burleson said this week on the Weaponized podcast that McCasland has a lot of information, now nobody can find him.
People go missing hiking all the time. I don't think they're just offing their own people.
Come on, bro. That's what they do.
Did you know that in 1962, the Pentagon actually drafted a detailed plan to bomb American cities, sink American ships, hijack American planes, and murder American civilians, then blame all of it on Cuba to trick the public into supporting a war where there was no public support? This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a declassified government document that was signed by every member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon, including the Secretary of Defense. It's posted on the National Security Archive, which I'll link below, where you can read it for yourself. The Pentagon proposed bombing Miami and D.C., sinking a Navy ship in Guantanamo Bay, and holding fake funerals and shooting down a civilian airliner, all to be blamed on Cuba. The document said American casualties would cause, and a direct quote from the document, a helpful wave of national indignation. Let that sink in. The Pentagon wrote that murdering American citizens would be helpful to the cause. The only reason it didn't happen is President Kennedy said no. That's it. The document was classified for 35 years. So here's 3 facts I need you to know. The FBI just warned California law enforcement about a potential Iranian drone attack. Multiple federal officials said the intelligence was unverified. Second point, the U.S. military has built working replicas of Iran's own Shahed 136 very successful drone. They reverse engineered a captured one, and they've already used them in combat. Third, 4 AI-powered military drones were stolen from Fort Campbell in November. No one told us about that. Only news is surfacing now saying that they've lost these 4 and they've put up a financial reward. So the U.S. has copies of Iranian drones, there are warnings about Iranian drone attacks, and military drones are missing from an army base, all during a very unpopular war. I'm not making an accusation, I'm giving you documented facts. What you do with them is up to you.
How the fuck do you steal drones from an army base? Them drones are massive.
They didn't steal them, bro.
They're not the only country to do false flags.
Operation Gladio was an Italian far right-wing political party that were allied with the CIA. They created like sleeper cells, basically. They would conduct sabotage. They had this thing called the strategy of tension. It kind of seems like this has happened quite a bit in the United States. But during the 1960s through the 1980s, Italy experienced bombings and terror attacks in what was known as the Years of Lead. They did it and then they blamed it on communists. But it was in fact the Italian government of Operation Gladio that were doing the terrorist attacks on their own people to create this tension of fear to oppose the Communist Party. A really creepy thing that was connected to it called Propaganda Do, which was also known as the Shadow Masonic Lodge.
Oh boy.
That were highly involved, operated in Italy during the 1970s and 1980s. It was led by Licio Gelli, functioned less than a fraternal group and more like a covert political network. They had senior military officials, intelligence officials, politicians, media executives, bankers, and industrialists. Italian government, they raided Licio Gelli. They raided his house, found all these documents where they were staging all these events to where their party of this Masonic Lodge was going to take over the Italian government.
Goodness.
And if you know anything about the Masons,
Yeah, dude, a cult.
they get along with everybody. And so like if this Masonic Lodge was doing this in Italy, imagine what they're doing all over the world.
Yeah. I told you, bro. They rule the world.
That's a bit vague, Ted.
Come on, bro. You know who they are.
Have you seen this clip of Netanyahu talking about Rome where he says, we won't lose this time?
We want to know what you're reading now.
It's a book by a historian by the name of Barry Strauss. It's called The Jews Against Rome.
What made you pick it up?
Well, we lost that down there. I think we have to win the next one.
A lot of speculation is saying that the United States is the new Rome.
We're Rome, yeah. So historically, there's some religious texts that mention Rome, the powers in the West, and they use Rome. That doesn't mean they mean Rome in Italy. What Rome was at the time, we are today. We're the empire that has the greatest amount of power in the world.
They're going to take out anyone that gets in their way.
Yeah, bro. Or speaks out against them.
You believe there was reason to investigate foreign ties to Charlie Kirk's murder and were told by the FBI, DOJ?
FBI and DOJ, yeah.
No, you're not allowed to investigate that.
Stop. It's done. It basically cut off our access to be able to get into that information. I didn't even say necessarily that I believe there's 100% foreign ties. There were data points that we needed to investigate that pertained to some kind of a foreign nexus that we were stopped from investigating.
That just strikes me as inconceivable that that could happen. What were you told was the reason to prevent you as a federal intelligence official from looking into the murder when you had reason to look into it?
We basically were told that, hey, we'll get back to you if we find any kind of foreign ties. Meanwhile, we had already dug up a decent amount of leads. Again, I'm not saying that we had anything concrete, but we found more work that we needed to do. We were then told, you guys need to stop. You can't work on this anymore.
Ted, please, this is making my arsehole itch. Last week was bad enough.
Shut up, bro. People need to know.
Your taxpayer dollars are going to subsidize rings. Would you say it's a good idea to use military force to strike potential Iranian nuclear targets? My whole life, I've been told that Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a bomb. Iran is getting a nuclear bomb. And yet here in 2025, they do not have a nuclear bomb. So ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question. You know, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. They were wrong about Iraq. They were wrong about Syria. They were wrong about Afghanistan. They were wrong about the Taliban. They were wrong about Libya. They were wrong about the Arab Spring. They were wrong about Yemen. They were wrong about the Arabian Peninsula. They were wrong about the 9/11 hijackers being Saudi Arabian. But hey, 10 times the charm. This time we're actually right. Yeah, you're gonna have to earn our trust on this one. I am going to continue to ask the question. A 20-hour response in a country the size of New Jersey. That begs a big explanation. And more importantly, America is significantly underwriting the Israeli government $4 billion a year. We as American taxpayers deserve answers to this. We deserve answers. Also, if we're gonna get into a regional or world war based on an intel failure, so, I mean, we pay for this, what are we buying, right? I got smeared as a Jew hater, an anti-Semite, and conspiracy theorist because I said exactly what I just said. And I refuse to back down despite all the smears thrown at me.
We need to start putting our radio mics in a safe, bro.
Come on, Ted, they've got bigger things to worry about than us.
Charlie Kirk is killed publicly in a very horrific way, and we're not really even allowed to look into that at all. And Charlie Kirk was one of President Trump's closest advisors, and he also advocated heavily against a war with Iran. He was in the Oval Office in the lead up to the 12-day war. I wasn't particularly close with Charlie. He was very gracious to me when I was running for Congress, very, very supportive. So we knew each other. And the last time I saw Charlie Kirk on this earth was in June in the West Wing, in the stairway. And I said hi to him, and he looked me in the eye, and he said very loudly, and it's a small, you've been in the West Wing, it's small, it's a tight space. And he said, Joe, stop us from getting into a war with Iran. Very loudly.
He was single-minded.
And he walked off, and he went, I believe, into the Oval. So when one of President Trump's closest advisors, who is vocally advocating for us to not go to war with Iran and for us to rethink at least our relationship with the Israelis, and then he's suddenly publicly assassinated, and we're not allowed to ask any questions about that. It's a data point. It's a data point that we need to look into.
What do you mean when you say we're not allowed to ask any questions about that?
We've been told that this individual, Robinson, is a lone gunman, and maybe he is. But the investigation that I was a part of, the National Counterterrorism Center was a part of, we were stopped from continuing to investigate. And the FBI will say that they stopped that because they wanted to turn everything over to the Utah state authorities. Everything's going to trial. It's very, very sensitive. But there was still a lot for us to look into that I can't really get into. But there was still linkage for us to investigate that we needed to run down. And I'm not making any conclusions. I'm not saying
no, I don't think you are.
Because of this happened. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there's unanswered questions. We know the pressure because of the text messages that have been made public, that Charlie was under a lot of pressure from a lot of pro-Israel donors. And again, we know Charlie was advocating to President Trump against this war with Iran.
I told you, bro. They'll take out anyone that gets in their way.
Maybe we should stop talking about it then.
Come on, bro. Don't be such a bitch.
What kind of pressure does it require to get a president who campaigned against exactly this thing for 10 years to do exactly this thing?
I think there's two schools of thought. One is the media echo chamber, the donors, the way the Israelis come in and kind of launder the information. The other option is much darker. President Trump is very smart. I think President Trump has a gift for interpreting large sets of data and making very, very key strategic decisions. And so when the president sees that he's got issues with his own security detail, when he sees what happened in Butler, the other assassination attempts, when he sees what happened with Charlie, I think it's reasonable to believe that somewhere in his head, he thinks that, like, maybe I don't have a choice. Maybe they could harm me or they could harm my family. And if they can't keep me safe, I believe the president deeply cares. I believe he's very courageous. I think it was just a matter of worry about his own physical safety. I don't think he cares. We saw that in Braveheart. But he does love his family, and he's got a big family. And so somewhere in his head, if they can't keep me safe, what about my family? So maybe the president was just simply deceived by the echo chamber we described, and that's how we got to this place. But it's also, there's a potential that there's an element of coercion, intimidation, and whatever words you want to use there, that is also influencing his decision-making.
I'm guessing it's got something to do with the Epstein files.
Yeah, bro. It all goes back to the Rothschilds.
So in all of the Epstein files, what is the craziest email that you feel like everybody missed?
The most interesting email is this connection of the House of Rothschild to Jeffrey Epstein. Edmond de Rothschild, at the time, was facing a problem with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice was alleging that Edmond de Rothschild, the bank in Switzerland, was helping wealthy Americans dodge taxes. So what they decide is that they'll pay a fine. Now, to negotiate that settlement, they hire two individuals, Kathy Rumler and Jeffrey Epstein. He says, I think you will find 45.5 penalty, that's 45.5 million, legal 10 million for legal fees to Kathy, me 25, all less than 80, pretty good. They paid 45.5 million to the Department of Justice. Epstein was paid 25 million to broker that deal. The reason why this puts it all together for me is you have the Rothschilds negotiating with the American Justice Department. Who do you hire? There are 10 law firms which you hire. You don't hire Jeffrey Epstein unless you're hiring him for a reason.
Yeah, that's sketchy as fuck.
I've been saying it for a long time, bro. It's the Rothschilds.
Hey, when did the Rothschilds come to America? Officially, they really started making noise about 1837. That was our first big crash. And what about after that? When they got here, what did they start doing? Businesses, infrastructure, railroads were big for them, and they would eventually start doing business with the mortgage, JP Morgan. Okay, so like, at what point did they like grab our country by the balls? Well, that would be about 1895, 1896-ish. That's when JP Morgan and the Rothschilds bailed out the entire country of America because we're running out of gold. And so they said, hey, we have $45 million worth of gold, want it? I imagine there was a little bit of, quid pro quo there. Daggone. And then there's 1910, the Jekyll Island meeting after the 1907 bank panic that led to the 1913 formation of the Federal Reserve. And that was all because of an island that they met at that was owned by JP Morgan and a boat that sank that was owned by JP Morgan that kept the Federal Reserve's naysayers from getting the meetings. And now we have a central bank that's controlled by Rothschild Rockefeller money. Jeez. That's not to mention the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812. They pressured America heavy to finance it. Even the Civil War, they were on both sides in the Napoleonic War. And guess what? The first thing our central bank funded after it was founded in 1913. 1913. That would be. Did they fund? Oh God. 6 months later, World War I. Well, that's all bad, but at least it stopped. Shortly after that, Britain would write them a letter saying, hey, that land in the Middle East that you want, we're going to give it to you, Mr. Rothschild. Israel, it's all yours. Oh. The reason you can't afford an engagement ring or a wedding band, it's because of the Rothschilds and the De Beers Diamond Company. In the mid-80s, they created an M&A company. An M&A company is a merger and acquisition company. Think private equity, but before private equity. And guess what they did with... We might need to slow down, but what did they do? We're using it to get involved in Wall Street. They wanted to infiltrate the New York Wall Street monster that had been forming in America. You want to know what they did to do that? What did they do? He did it by sending somebody to New York City to oversee the purchase of Macmillan Inc. Macmillan Inc. was a media company that would be McGraw-Hill, which is responsible for a lot of the elementary school books that you and I were raised on. Do you want to know who they sent to New York City in 1988 to do this? Robert Maxwell. He was in partnership with Robert Maxwell. And when Robert Maxwell would go on to die on his yacht because he owed the Mossad money, guess who he also owed about 50 million pounds to? The Rothschild family through the Bank of England.
If you haven't seen our deep dive on Robert Maxwell, check it out.
We gotta do the Rothschilds, bro.
Robert Maxwell, along with Roy Cohn, had been running a corporate blackmail ring throughout the entire world run by the Mossad. And when he died, Ghislaine and Jeffrey Epstein took on the reins. That's why they had been introduced only 6 months prior to his death. After that, they would go on to infiltrate people like the princes, the politicians, and the media moguls that we know today. And we know through Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer through 2008 and 2009, admitted that he was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein in the early 90s by a Rothschild.
I was introduced to him by the Lady and Lord Rothschild.
Wow. But, okay, well, we don't have proof that Epstein worked for Rothschild. Here's an email from Epstein over to Peter Thiel. Says, as you know, I represent the Rothschild family. But maybe only, represented a few of them. Maybe he didn't represent the whole family. Here's this wrinkly old pervert, Les Wexner, saying he represented the whole family.
Done personal work for the Rothschild family in France. He represented their whole family.
What? Okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Tag Howard Lutnick. I think that's what we could do, because I believe he's a Mossad plant that's currently being seeded by the Rothschild family in a place precariously right next to Jeffrey Epstein. But all because he's his neighbor? Like, he just maybe bought the home on Zillow. He didn't. He bought the home in 1998 from the Comet Trust, which was run by the son of the World Jewish Congress founder and World Zionist Foundation organizer. Also before that, it was owned by Jeffrey Epstein himself. Well, just because he owned it doesn't mean like it was his house or anything like that, or ever lived there, or like that. Come on, Jeffrey Epstein would actually live there in 1992, starting right after things got serious with Ghislaine. So they would probably be or doing whatever from 92 to 95 in that property before moving over into the other property, which will remain vacant for about 3 years before Jeffrey Epstein gets to pick his neighbor. It happens to be the Secretary of Commerce, Howard Lutnick, who would profit off of 9/11, survive 9/11, and also then use Cantor Fitzgerald with his sons at the helm to profit off of the very tariff being shot down in the Supreme Court that he helped form. So you basically think Howard Lutnick is like a really high-level crisis actor.
We gotta do the Rothschilds deep dive, bro.
It'll have to be a whole fucking series.
Do you think there's a connection between Jeffrey Epstein and UFOs?
For sure.
And what is it?
Absolutely. So, look, Epstein put together a conference basically hosting and platforming all of the top gravity researchers in the world. Epstein was taking people down in submarines, including Stephen Hawking, to study quantum gravitational anomalies in the Bahamas Basin, basically in the Bermuda Triangle region. So Epstein was clearly interested in understanding gravity, and quite possibly for the sake of propulsion. So, okay, Epstein is continuing some kind of research that Robert Maxwell was involved in that has to do with conquering gravity. I tell you why I think electrogravitics, but here's where it gets really much crazier. That, by all accounts, all of the young women involved in Epstein's compromat operations were, well, most of them were Nordic, and none of them were black or brown women, transhumanist. And so Epstein is trying to create eugenically enhanced Nordic people at Zorro Ranch. This fixation with Nordics and eugenic uses of biotechnology that then spins Epstein's interest in gravity in the direction of, the UFO phenomenon, electrogravitics. He's interested in these Nordics and their connection to UFOs. So these people were interested in Atlantis. They were trying to breed Nordics, and they were interested in gravity, in conquering gravity. Therefore, I suspect that the interest in gravity is an interest in electrogravitics and, the Townsend Brown effect. And basically, it's all part of the UFO phenomenon that they're trying to crack.
Epstein and UFOs. Didn't see that coming.
They're all Satanists, bro.
I think you have intergenerational pools of capital, and right now they are over-influenced by occult. So I think you have interdimensional intelligence, which is operating, demonic intelligence.
Interdimensional demonic intelligence.
Yeah. Yep. So I think this thing about good and evil is real. And I can't find it anymore. I found it once. There were in the 30s, a British physicist got up and said, we are being manipulated, but from other dimensions by intelligent beings from other dimensions. So I think, if you study Christianity and you read the Bible, you're dealing with both divine intelligence and demonic intelligence. And I think too much of the leadership has gotten deeply involved in the occult and demonic kinds of intelligence.
Wow.
I told you, bro.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Ted. I don't know if we'll ever know the full story of Epstein.
So here we have a photograph of alleged Woody Allen at Jeffrey Epstein's property. But in all the other photos that we've seen of Woody Allen, he seems to have been visiting Jeffrey Epstein at his home in New York City. But this isn't the home in New York City. Take a look behind you. Please take a look at the tiling or whatever patterning that is back there behind Woody Allen. And notice that it's a perfect match here. This is Zorro Ranch, Epstein's ranch in New Mexico. The ranch that was never, not one single time, raided by federal authorities or even searched. There was no search warrant ever executed on this property. To me, Zorro Ranch has to be the most disturbing rabbit hole in all of the Epstein story because there are no answers. The place literally was never searched, and in the years after Epstein was found dead, they were given literally years to remove anything from the property, to clean up anything from the property, to potentially seal any tunnels or underground facilities at the property. I've even talked to survivors like Juliette Bryant, who claims that she woke up and was being operated on, and she believes they were taking or harvesting her eggs from her body.
Eugenics, bro.
Seems like the island was just a decoy.
What I'm about to tell you will blow your mind. Huffines and his wife are the new owners of Epstein's Zorro Ranch via a shell company. Epstein's ranch is owned by a man who funds newborn heart cell harvesting. Huffines is CEO of HEST, which invests in Secretome Therapeutics, which takes cells harvested from the hearts of newborns under 30 days old for the treatment of cardiovascular disease. I repeat, newborns. The new owner of Zorro Ranch is funding this developing therapy. Here's Huffines with Steve Bannon, who is also in the Epstein files extensively. Huffines' son is on Trump's cabinet. There are only 3 scientists in the whole world who specialize in this research, and one of them, Eric Olson, appears twice in the Epstein files. Candace has recently connected Erica Kirk and Epstein via Next Modeling Agency, allegedly. If you've been following, I've done a deep dive as well. Turning Point Action has recently endorsed him in his campaign for Texas Comptroller. So is this another connection between Erica Kirk and Epstein? If you know anything about Zorro Ranch, you know that there have been very disturbing allegations. I have an entire Epstein series on it. Epstein told a fellow eugenist that he hoped to freeze his brain and his little manhood down there at death so that his organs could be revived for future transhumanism. If you've been following me, you also know that I found out that the Huffines allege that they're going to put a Christian retreat on their new ranch. Lisa Valdez says that the only reason that they even said that they're trying to build a Christian retreat is because they got caught digging illegally without permits, allegedly. So they purchased it in 2023 and tried to hide their names in a shell company. But then Clara Bates, a reporter, she found out their identity and revealed it. And at that point is when they said, oh, we're just doing a Christian retreat. That's why we're digging. But Elisa Valdez says that she tried to find paperwork on that, and there's no paper trail showing that they are making this Christian retreat.
There's a lot we don't know about Zorro Ranch, bro. But we'll have to save that for next time.
Hold up, Ted, we gotta do the giveaway. But first, we got an update on the merch. Our first orders have shipped and they're on their way to you. If you've already received your order, let us know in the comments and share your pictures in the community tab. If your order hasn't shipped yet, don't worry. Some of our stock got delivered late, but we've got everything now and they'll be shipping out on Monday. We're all caught up with our orders and from now on we'll be shipping twice a week. Once an order comes through, we have to make it, fold it, polybag it and package it ready for you guys. So allow 2 to 4 working days for your order to be shipped. When we were working with the print-on-demand company, it was heartbreaking seeing people receive misprints or poor quality products. We've always put a lot of work into this, We work with incredible artists, we source our own blanks, so to have it all fucked up by someone else was infuriating. But now, we've got full quality control of our clothing. We want to make stuff that you guys love to wear, not cheap novelty merch. We could slap our artwork and logos on cheap shirts, sell them for $15 a pop and make a lot more money. But if you're into what we're doing enough to part with your own money, we want to deliver you the best product possible. We're working on bringing the mugs and posters in-house so we can start offering free shipping deals. And we're now shipping worldwide. Thank you guys for all the support. Let's get back to the giveaway.
Leave a comment for a chance to win in our next episode. Let's do this, Brett.
Bye-bye!
Bye-bye!
Contact us on our website to claim your prize.
That's terrortedstowels.com. Go grab some merch, bro.
And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.